Breach can be one of the most fun and lucrative endgame systems in PoE 2 because of the insane amount of monster density and rewards it can provide. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through the basics, give you some tips from my experience, explain the passive tree and my recommendations on how to spend your points, and at the end I'll have a quick guide on the Pinnacle boss fight to hopefully spare you the grief of dying after farming for hours for it like I did the first time. At its core, Breach mechanics are simple. Find the Breach hand, walk over it, and kill as many monsters that spawn as you can. A ring will form around the hand and spread outward. A ton of monsters will spawn inside and try to kill you. Your objective is to kill as many as you can as fast as you can, which will help keep the Breach open longer. Breach-specific loot drops include Breach rings, catalysts, and Splinters. Breach rings are a special type of ring that can have their quality enhanced up to 50%, increasing the power or stat levels of one specific type of stat on that ring by using catalysts. For example, if a ring has increased cold damage and cold resistance, using Tools Catalyst, which targets cold modifiers, will increase both as the quality goes up. Catalysts are not restricted to Breach rings, but because Breach rings can have their quality enhanced by up to 50%, that's often where they will be the most effective and useful. Breach Splinters that drop must be collected until you have 300 of them, which you can then turn into a Breach Stone that takes you to the Pinnacle boss fight. I'll explain more about that later, but for now just know that you need to collect a lot of them, and that's your primary focus until you have at least 4 to 6 points in the Breach tree. On that note, in my time playing, I've noticed that the drop rate for Breach Splinters is either non-existent or abysmal below tier 11. Unless you're just doing it for fun, I wouldn't waste my time doing breaches in maps less than tier 11. Personally, I found tier 12 to 13 to be the sweet spot for me, resulting on average in the most splinters per breach. Anything higher, I found I sacrificed clear speed and survivability to the point it just wasn't as effective. Of course, your mileage may vary there, it just depends on what feels good to you, and if you feel like you're not getting enough, try going down a tier or two. Breach Splinters drop not only from monsters, but also from clasped hands, and with those, it's more consistent than kills, so I'd recommend aiming to hit as many hands as possible during each breach to maximize your drops. It's also worth noting that due to how Breach works, some maps are way better for it than others. Maps that are more open, like Savannah, Blooming Field, Steaming Springs, and Sandspit are great, while maps with small halls and quarters like Seepage, Augury, Val Factory, and Crypt kinda suck. I found myself on average getting at least 2 to 3 times the amount of drops on the bigger open map. The process of collecting Splinters will be a slow one to start, but will get much quicker once you have a few points in the passive tree. Let's take a look at that now. You earn points in the passive tree by defeating the Pinnacle boss in the Twisted Domain. After your first kill, you will receive 2 passive points. For each set of 2 points, the first will increase the difficulty of the Twisted Domain, and the second will provide some sort of beneficial buff for your breach maps. To keep receiving points from kills, you must always spend your points from the previous kill, which increases the difficulty. Otherwise, you will not be awarded the skill book or points. For your first 2 points, I'd recommend going for Crumbling Walls, which has a chance to give your maps additional breaches up to 10, which can be huge. After that, your next 2 points could either go to Grasping Hands, which gives the clasped hands in breaches a 25% chance to be guarded by a pack of magic monsters and increases the amount of clasped hands by 50%, or you could go for Frantic Invasion, which increases the quantity of Breach Splinters dropped by Breach monsters by 75%, while increasing your damage taken from Breach monsters by 20%. I'd probably recommend going with Grasping Hands first, but then once you get your 5th and 6th point, you'll want to respec them so that you can make your way up to Rising Pyre to increase the density of your breach maps, and then your last 2 points can go back to pick up Grasping Hands again. I think overall, this is the best bet to maximize your breach potential, but obviously feel free to experiment with them. It's relatively cheap to respec whenever you want. Now let's go over how the Twisted Domain and boss fight work. After you collect 300 Splinters, you can turn them into a Breach Stone. If you have a stack of 300 and can't figure out how to do it, unstack and restack them and they should automatically combine into a Breach Stone. Take that Breach Stone to the Realm Gate located near your Atlas starting point to open a portal to the Twisted Domain. In the Twisted Domain, you will have to fight through a timed breach-like event to make your way to the Pinnacle boss, Xesht. Once the timer stops, a bunch of loot will drop and you'll be right at the entrance to the boss room. Collect your loot, feel free to port out and back in if you need to, and then head into the room when you're ready. The Xesht fight itself isn't too bad, but there are a few things to watch out for, and if you get too cocky or greedy, it could definitely cost you the fight. So pay attention, take your time, and you should be fine. The first thing to look out for is this flick attack. When you see this charging, get ready to dodge out of the way. If you stay within melee range, it's actually easier to avoid, but either way, you just need to dodge after he's done charging. Occasionally, Xesht will summon Breach Lords through these portals on the ground. When you see them, run towards the opposite edges of the room to easily avoid them. One of them shoots out a bunch of ice shards that can freeze you if you get hit by them, and another will create a wave of lightning that will spread outward in a circle. You can use the halls and edges of the room to almost completely avoid these. Another move to look out for is the floating hand. You'll see a shadow start to chase you, and after a few seconds, you'll notice that shadow will have a purple glow. When you see that purple glow, it's about ready to drop, so try and dodge out of the way. The damage from this, if it does hit you, likely won't one-shot you, but combined with other things going on later, could be fatal. Sometimes he'll summon a big fireball. It's pretty slow moving and easy to avoid, so just move or dodge out of that. If you see these two sets of purple orbs forming near him, get ready to dodge 3 times. He will charge them up and then you'll see a flash. Right after the flash, he will shoot at you 3 times back to back. Just dodge roll 3 times to the left or right to avoid taking damage from them. Sometimes Xesht will burrow under the ground and you'll see him coming towards you. Just avoid him and dodge out of the way if he gets directly under you, because he will pop up and try to clap you. After he's below 50% health, he may start to summon multiple arms that will come up and try to slam down on you. If you see them, give them a second to start to drop and then dodge out of the way. If you panic dodge before they fall, they might slam down right on top of you and kill you. This is easily the most dangerous attack in the whole fight, especially when combined with other mechanics, so be very careful when they start to show up. That's pretty much all there is to the fight though. As long as you know these moves and what to look out for, you should be good. Finish him off and grab your loot. If you have another Breach Stone or enough Exalts to purchase another, you can try to fight him again for more points after you spend the first 2. Just keep in mind that the difficulty will be increased, so the fight will be a bit harder. Xesht will have more health and deal more damage, but the mechanics should remain the same, so you should be able to use the same tactics. If you enjoyed this video or it helped you out at all, be sure to toss it a like or subscribe to the channel. It's greatly appreciated, and I'll have more PoE2 videos coming soon. Let me know in the comments below if you think I missed anything, or what video you'd like to see next. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.